Yesterday, I was in court and I was dealing with a matter concerning the Towns and Communities Act. And as I often do at this stage, once I am using a legislation in a matter, I try to read broadly on the legislation because, for learning purposes, it doesn't kill you to know. Doesn't kill you to know, general information. And in reading the Act, Tana, I went into a rabbit hole with some of the laws that exist in Jamaica. And I was like, what was the thinking back then in having these laws? And then I also saw the fines. And I'm like, no wonder why nobody knows about these laws, because the fines are very much inconsequential at this point in time. So one of them, Tana, was, did you know? I don't know. Probably the listeners know already, but I'm going to say it anyway. That there's a section in the Towns and Communities Act that speaks about mad dogs. So, let me read it for you. Section 15 of the Towns and Communities Act. By the way, this act came into existence from the 1800s. It's been amended later on, the latest one being 2014, the latest amendment. But this act came into existence, Tana, in 1843. And they have a mad dogs section wherein it shall be lawful for any constable to destroy any dog or other animal reasonably suspected to be in a rabid state, or which has been bitten by any dog or animal reasonably suspected to be in a rabid state, and the owner of any such dog or animal who shall permit the same to go at large after having information or reasonable ground for believing it is in a rabid state, or to have been bitten by any dog or animal in a rabid state, shall be liable to a penalty not exceeding, get so much money,
$100.
$10.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there is that. And then I started going a bit down more the rabbit hole. Did you know that by law you're not supposed to have goods on display on a Sunday?
I did not.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have goods on display on a Sunday. The fine for that is $4 as well.
What do you mean by not having goods on
Literally
display?
say,
Meaning you can't open your storefront?
no person shall open any place of business on Sunday, Good Friday, or Christmas Day. Yeah.
You know, you might be right, for real.
Yeah. Literally.
Or is
the law
it
literally
during
exempts-
particular hours on a
No,
Sunday?
No, it's literally just Sunday. And the law exempts like the airports. So it mentions Norma Manley and Sangsters International Airports. The places there, the businesses there can be open on a Sunday. Yeah. Found it very interesting.
So in essence, then shops are not supposed to be open on a Sunday?
Should have opened on a Sunday. That may I think too. But then again, when the penalty is $4, what are you going to do about that?
$4.
$4. Yeah. $4. And then I saw something else as well. Did you know that you can't buy rope after 6 o'clock?
Rum?
Rope.
Literally.
Rope.
Why?
I
What's
don't know.
the reason?
Exactly. Like, anything you're going to do with the rope, you can't buy it before and do it the same way. Like, I found it very interesting. You cannot buy rope after 6 o'clock. Yeah. Can't buy rope after 6 o'clock. And then, you have the other laws, which I think more people are all fair with. Like, the Marriage Act says you can't get married after 6, With burials, you can't get buried after 6, So we know those ones. But these, I found it very, very, very interesting, Tana. And then I came in the newsroom and was sharing it. And I think Kimono was telling me about a shoelace law as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to look for that one.
But
yeah.
for the shop one, if that is really the case that you can't open shop on a Sunday, well,
Yeah.
certainly Jamaicans are not abiding by that law, and they perhaps don't know that exists. I think we should do away with that one.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a mat one as well. So apparently, except for a house mat, you cannot beat out your mat before 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's a law?
Literally law. Literally. Literally. It is law. Literally. Yeah?
Does that one say why?
No. I'm hoping some of the listeners can tell me why. Like, what was the rationale behind, needing these laws back then? I mean, it's the 1800s. But these laws are very much still on our books. Very much,
I thought some of
very
these
much,
things were like
very
just
much,
culture and folklore, true. But that's a
very much
law.
on the books. Very much on the books. So just as though, for example, the law provides for pit toilets as well. You know that. So you cannot empty your pit latrine between 4 a.m. and 10 p.m. Again, that is law. Towns and Communities Act. Yeah. So when I saw it, I was just marveled by the fact that these things actually made up law. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Andrea Dunk is saying now, site check on burning
Yes,
rubbish
you
too.
cannot burn fire. I don't remember that one off the top of my head. George told me about that one this morning too. I think you can't light a fire. You can't light fire within a certain time. Yeah. Yeah, but that makes that I can see. I
Yeah,
can
that
see the
makes
rationale
sense.
behind that one. Well, these Country Fires Act, right? You cannot light a fire after 6 p.m. But that makes sense. People
Yes.
that home, all of them stop with the pollution. Yeah, that makes sense. That's Country Fires Act. But I feel like I'm in a rabbit hole out of because I hear that there are way more weird laws that are there, and I'm going to go and look for them. But I found these very interesting. But this brought to me though a bigger point, Tottenham and King listeners. Why can't we, instead of having to go back to amend the laws every time as it relates to the penalties? For example, when Popcorn pleaded guilty to the Noise Abatement Act out in St. Thomas, and his fines were very low. Why can't we, instead of having to go back to amend the actual nominal figure for the penalty, why can't we just use a time value of money and peg it to that? So, $4 in 1873, when the Towns and Communities Act came into existence, would be, let's say, $1,000 now in 2024, for argument's sake. Why can't we have that system, which would save a lot of legislative time, would make the laws and the teeth, consistently sharp over a period of time, to just have the monies pegged to their time value. That way, we don't have to go back to amend these penalties, and you don't sit down and say these laws make no sense anymore. It's not really enforced, or nobody cares to enforce it because of how low or ridiculous the penalty is. I think that's something we really should consider. It would save us a lot of legislative time. It would clear up the legislative agenda, I think, and it would make for way more efficient policy making and enforcement. And for some of these other laws, we need to just frankly get rid of them. That's what's on my mind.